Hello Midnights. We hope you enjoy our stories. Next for you, how fog shapes our fears, myths, and realities. Let us know where you are listening from and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. When the world around us dissolves into a silent, opaque shroud, vision becomes limited, sounds are muffled, and the very sense of direction can vanish. This disorienting experience, evoking feelings of isolation, vulnerability, and profound mystery, has for millennia led humanity to imbue fog with deep symbolic meaning. Long before scientific understanding offered meteorological explanations, ancient peoples looked to the natural world for answers to life's profound mysteries, seeing natural phenomena not merely as physical occurrences but as manifestations of divine will, spiritual presences, or gateways to other realms. Fog, by blurring boundaries and obscuring perception, perfectly embodies liminality, the in-between state. It creates a threshold between the seen and unseen, the mundane and the magical, or even life and death, making it a common setting in myths and folklore where transformation, danger, or supernatural encounters are most likely to occur. This deep-seated human response to atmospheric veiling speaks to an innate cognitive process that seeks meaning in ambiguity, transforming a mere meteorological event into a canvas for our deepest fears and aspirations. The widespread human trepidation towards fog stems from a potent combination of primal evolutionary instincts, profound sensory deprivation, and deep-seated cultural conditioning. This fear isn't merely a modern anxiety but a hardwired response to conditions that historically, and often still, pose significant threats to survival. At its core, the fear of fog is driven by sensory deprivation and a resultant loss of control. As highly visual creatures, humans rely heavily on sight to navigate, identify resources, and detect dangers. Fog renders this primary sense largely useless, reducing visibility to mere meters or even less. This sudden inability to perceive surroundings creates immediate anxiety, as familiar landmarks disappear and the world becomes an undifferentiated, indistinct space. Our brain, unable to adequately assess potential threats or plan a safe course of action, defaults to a state of heightened alert, akin to an evolutionary warning system against unseen predators. This primal response triggers physiological changes, an increased heart rate, heightened adrenaline, and muscle tension, preparing the body for a fight or flight scenario, even when no clear threat is visible. Further compounding this visual impairment is the way fog distorts sound. It can dampen some noises while making others carry in unexpected ways, profoundly affecting our perception of distance and direction. The unsettling silence often found within thick fog, or the eerie distortion of familiar noises, further heightens anxiety by disrupting our auditory map of the environment. Unlike total darkness, which is absolute in its visual negation, fog offers fleeting, unreliable glimpses, creating an even more unnerving form of uncertainty where things appear and disappear capriciously. Beyond sight and sound, the physical sensation of fog itself, the chill, the pervasive dampness clinging to skin and clothes, the way it absorbs light and color, rendering the world in muted shades of gray, contributes to a feeling of being utterly enveloped and isolated. The world loses its sharp edges, its comforting vastness shrinking to a confining, claustrophobic sphere, creating a uniquely tactile and chilling form of spatial disorientation. This pervasive lack of reliable sensory input translates directly into a profound loss of control over one's immediate environment and personal safety, triggering an innate fear response as humans instinctively crave predictability and agency for survival. This inherent vulnerability exposes a fragile dependence on sensory input for our psychological equilibrium, making fog a profound challenge to our very sense of being in the world. Beyond the purely sensory, the fear of fog is profoundly influenced by the unknown and the human imagination. When concrete visual information is lacking, the human mind tends to fill the perceptual voids with possibilities, often leaning towards worst-case scenarios. Indistinct shapes can morph into lurking figures, monsters, or unseen obstacles, while muffled sounds become whispers, approaching footsteps, or the cries of something malevolent. This inherent tendency to catastrophize in the face of uncertainty is a key psychological driver of fear in foggy conditions, tapping into primal fears of the unseen predator or the hidden threat. The cognitive load required to process fragmented information and constantly re-evaluate a fluid, unlocatable environment can be overwhelming, leading to mental fatigue and heightened stress. Moreover, fog's inherent liminality, its quality of blurring boundaries, allows it to serve as a potent symbol for the uncanny and the supernatural. It creates an atmosphere ripe for the manifestation of the otherworldly, where the veil between everyday reality and mystical realms thins, and anything seems possible. The world seems to vanish just beyond one's immediate vicinity, evoking a deeper philosophical unease about the fragility of reality itself and the ease with which our familiar world can dissolve into nothingness, leaving us isolated in a profound mystery, questioning the very solidity of existence. This psychological phenomenon, often described as apophenia when applied to seeing patterns in randomness, becomes particularly acute in fog, turning ordinary environmental cues into potential omens or threats. This fundamental human susceptibility to fear in the face of fog has deeply permeated cultural narratives and practical historical realities, manifesting in countless myths, legends, and everyday anxieties. One of the most enduring motifs associated with fog is its role as a magical veil, separating mortals from the divine or leading them into hidden realms. In Celtic mythology, this concept is a cornerstone, particularly with the Féth fíada. This isn't just dense fog, but a supernatural mist, a spell cast by the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient gods and goddesses of Ireland, to conceal themselves, their fíada, mounds or fairy dwellings, or even entire armies. The Leber Gabal Iran, Book of Invasions, recounts how the Tuatha Dé Danann arrived in Ireland concealed by a Féth fíada, making them appear as if they simply materialized from the air. A prominent tale involves Lugh, the Celtic god of light and skill, who, on one occasion, utilized the Féth fíada to travel unseen, demonstrating its strategic use by deities. This magical shroud could also induce forgetfulness or disorientation in those who entered it, effectively trapping them in the otherworld or causing them to lose all memory of their past lives. Similarly, the mystical island of Avalon in Arthurian legend is perpetually wreathed in mists, accessible only to those possessing true spiritual insight or guided by magical forces, underscoring its status as a timeless, otherworldly sanctuary. For ancient Celtic mariners, sailing into a fog could easily be seen as a journey into the mystical unknown, a test of faith or destiny that might lead to a blessed isle or a watery grave, emphasizing the fine line between divine guidance and perilous illusion. This liminal quality of fog made it a natural bridge for shamanistic journeys or prophetic visions, where the ordinary world receded, and the spiritual plane became accessible. The symbolism of primordial mists also features prominently in Norse mythology. In their creation myth, the world was formed from the collision of two primordial realms, Muspelheim, a realm of fire, and Niflheim, the world of mist or Misthome, a realm of ice and cold. From the interaction of the melting ice of Niflheim with the sparks of Muspelheim, the first giant dimmer was born, highlighting fog's role not just as a cover, but as a foundational element of creation, a chaotic, undifferentiated state from which order emerged. Niflheim also contains Hergelmir, the well from which all cold rivers flow, and is the destination for those who die of sickness or old age, tying its misty depths to the realm of the dead, a chilling precursor to Hell's domain. Even one of the Valkyries is named Mist, Mister, further solidifying fog's connection to powerful, otherworldly entities and the often hazy line between life and death. In ancient Greek mythology, divine intervention often manifests through atmospheric concealment. Beyond Aphrodite concealing Paris in the Iliad, the Olympian gods frequently used mists and clouds to hide heroes, transport themselves unseen, or obscure battlefields to influence outcomes. For instance, in the Odyssey, Athena often shrouds Odysseus in a mist to protect him or allow him to move unnoticed through unfamiliar lands, demonstrating a benevolent use of atmospheric concealment. Zeus himself often wrapped in clouds and mists when descending to the mortal realm, emphasizing his power and inscrutable nature while shielding mortals from his overwhelming presence. The entrance to Hades, the underworld, was also frequently depicted as shrouded in mist or darkness, emphasizing its terrifying, unreachable quality and serving as a psychological barrier to the living, reinforcing the finality of death and the separation of realms. Across these diverse mythologies, fog consistently serves as a symbolic marker of divine presence or the boundary of sacred space, emphasizing humanity's awe and apprehension when confronting the immeasurable. The obscured vision of fog makes it a perfect medium for supernatural entities to appear or move unnoticed, blurring the lines between the natural and the spectral. In Japanese folklore, the Enenra is a yokai, supernatural being, made of smoke and darkness, typically associated with bonfires, but conceptually linked to any dense, obscure atmospheric phenomenon. Only those with pure hearts are said to see them, suggesting a spiritual dimension to perceiving such creatures, or a deeper truth hidden from the ordinary eye. Other yokai like Hitodama, souls of the dead, often depicted as floating fiery orbs, are frequently seen drifting through misty graveyards or desolate areas, their spectral glow made all the more eerie by the surrounding obscurity. From Dutch and German folklore emerged the Witweven, or white women, ancient, powerful spirits often linked to pre-Christian pagan beliefs. They are described as floating through the air, particularly over misty fields or bogs. They could be benevolent, offering healing or prophecy, but also malevolent, luring travelers into bogs or causing harm. Their association with mist underscores their ethereal, transient nature, always on the edge of visibility, often leaving victims with a sense of lingering dread or unexplained memory lapses. In various European folklores, the Wild Hunt, a ghostly procession of hunters led by a mythical figure like Odin, is often said to ride through the sky, accompanied by howling winds and thick mists, emphasizing their supernatural and terrifying presence as an omen of war or plague, their passage often marked by a sudden, chilling atmospheric change and a feeling of impending doom. In some vampire mythologies, particularly later literary iterations, vampires are granted the ability to turn into mist or smoke, allowing for effortless escape and stealthy pursuit, reinforcing their otherworldly, non-corporeal nature, a power that thrives in the very elements of obscurity, enabling them to slip through the smallest cracks. For the indigenous Ainu people of northern Japan, kamui are divine beings or spirits inhabiting natural elements, and mists, clouds, or unusual atmospheric conditions could be seen as direct manifestations or signs from these powerful kamui, demanding respect or signaling their presence in the human world, highlighting a reverence for natural phenomena as direct conduits to the divine. Furthermore, in parts of rural British folklore, particularly around coasts and moorlands, local legends speak of Morgans or mist men, elusive figures or even small, mischievous fairies associated with thick fogs, who might lead travelers astray or simply vanish as quickly as they appear, reinforcing the idea of hidden dangers and tricksters lurking within the natural world's ambiguities. Even the elusive will-o'-the-wisps, flickering lights often associated with marshy areas, gain an amplified, uncanny quality when seen through a shrouding mist, leading travelers off their paths with their deceptive glow. The pervasive motif of entities manifesting within fog taps into our deep-seated fascination with the unseen and our tendency to personify the forces of nature, transforming an atmospheric condition into a living, potent presence that demands caution or reverence. The profound psychological impact of fog on human perception has made it a powerful symbol for confusion, the subconscious, and the journey of self-discovery. When sight is denied, other senses become heightened but are also prone to deception, sounds become distorted, familiar scents vanish, and the very concept of time can seem to lose its grip, leading to a profound detachment from reality. This sensory deprivation forces the mind inward, stimulating imagination and sometimes paranoia, as indistinct shapes can morph into terrifying figures and muffled sounds become whispers from unseen entities. The very acoustic properties of fog, its ability to dampen sounds and make distant noises seem closer or further away, contribute significantly to this sense of mystery, making the environment disorienting not just visually but orally, inspiring tales of phantom bells or spectral cries carried on the misty air. This heightened state of perception, coupled with impaired clarity, often transforms the mundane into the menacing, or the familiar into the fantastic. Even phenomena like the Brocken spectre, where a person's magnified shadow is cast onto cloud or fog opposite the sun, can create a seemingly supernatural apparition, historically fueling myths of mountain spirits or deities. This interplay between external conditions and internal states highlights the mind's active role in constructing reality, particularly when sensory data is incomplete. To be lost in a fog can represent a period of profound uncertainty, a psychological labyrinth where external guidance is absent, forcing an internal reckoning. It becomes a potent metaphor for mental states like confusion, depression, or spiritual crisis, where one feels adrift, unable to see a clear path forward, a journey into the self, often unwillingly undertaken. It also powerfully symbolizes oblivion or the fading of memory, where past events become hazy and indistinct, much like a landscape veiled in mist, or a future pathway becomes entirely unclear. Conversely, entering a mystical fog can also symbolize a trance-like state, a dream world where the rules of reality are suspended, allowing for profound insights or encounters with forgotten truths, a descent into the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung might describe it. This interplay between physical sensory deprivation and psychological depth makes fog a powerful vehicle for exploring the human condition in myths and legends, a space where the rational mind yields to intuition and primal instinct, and where the line between perception and reality blurs, revealing the profound mystery inherent in our own minds. It is in these moments of profound disorientation that individuals are often forced to confront their deepest fears and reevaluate their fundamental assumptions, frequently leading to a profound transformation or revelation of self. The real-world impact of fog on human lives deeply informed its mythological roles, demonstrating how tangible experiences shape intangible beliefs. For seafarers, fog was, and still is, a terrifying phenomenon, capable of causing shipwrecks, disorientation, and isolation. This practical danger fueled legends of ghost ships appearing suddenly in the mist, phantom fleets sailing on, or the cries of drowned sailors echoing through the fog. The infamous Mary Celeste, found adrift in 1872, is just one of many maritime mysteries where fog's disorienting effect likely played a role in initial theories and subsequent legends. The Flying Dutchman, a phantom ship doomed to sail the oceans forever, is frequently sighted emerging from or disappearing into dense sea fog, embodying eternal damnation and maritime peril, a spectral warning to sailors. In warfare, fog has been a potent, unpredictable factor. Commanders might utilize it for surprise attacks or retreats, and its sudden appearance could turn the tide of conflict, creating chaos and uncertainty. This unpredictability led to beliefs about divine favor or displeasure determining military outcomes, as seen in instances like portions of the Battle of Trenton during the American Revolution, where fog aided Washington's surprise attack. The metaphorical fog of war comes directly from this literal phenomenon, representing the profound confusion and uncertainty inherent in combat, mirroring the mythological themes of obfuscation, hidden dangers, and the unknown outcomes of human endeavors. The Industrial Revolution, particularly in cities like London, created notorious pea-souper fogs, a toxic blend of natural fog and coal smoke. These physically dangerous fogs, which caused widespread illness and sometimes death, fueled a new generation of urban legends and anxieties. They became associated with crime, hidden dangers, and a sense of suffocating dread, famously depicted in Victorian literature. For example, Charles Dickens's Bleak House, Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories, where murderers and mysterious figures would lurk unseen within the choking mist, blending ancient fears with modern urban perils. Even today, the phrase London fog evokes a specific, almost mythical, sense of oppressive mystery, a time when even the most bustling metropolis could become a landscape of isolated individuals, ripe for intrigue and unseen dangers. Furthermore, before the germ theory of disease, many cultures attributed epidemics to bad air or miasma, often associated with stagnant, foggy, or swampy conditions, directly linking atmospheric phenomena to illness and death, cementing fog's role as an ominous sign and a carrier of pestilence. In some coastal towns, the eerie sound of a foghorn cutting through the thick air has even spawned local legends of spectral warnings or the wailing of lost souls, blending auditory experience with supernatural belief. These historical parallels underscore how human societies consistently translate concrete threats and experiences into symbolic narratives that help them cope with and understand the inherent unpredictability of existence. The consistent appearance of these themes across continents and epochs isn't accidental. Scholars of folklore and mythology have offered insights into why fog holds such universal power. Mircea Eliade, a prominent historian of religion, often discussed liminality and sacred space, viewing thresholds and transitions as potent sites for hierophanies, manifestations of the sacred. Fog acts as a natural, pervasive threshold that invites such transformative encounters, blurring the boundaries between profane and sacred space, allowing for a glimpse into eternity or the divine. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious suggests universal archetypes that resonate across cultures. The veil or obscuring force that fog represents taps into primordial fears and fascinations with the hidden, the unknown, and the unconscious mind, making it a naturally potent symbol of psychological depth and the mysteries within ourselves. Jungian analysis might see fog in a dream as representing confusion, a transitional phase, or something hidden from conscious awareness. Joseph Campbell, another influential mythologist, explored how natural phenomena are integrated into heroes' journeys. Fog can represent a period of profound trial, spiritual blindness, or a chaotic phase that the hero must navigate before gaining new insight or reaching their destiny, signifying a necessary period of uncertainty for growth and revelation. These academic perspectives highlight that the human tendency to imbue fog with meaning isn't random, but rooted in deep psychological and cultural patterns. They reveal how natural phenomena become powerful archetypal symbols, speaking to universal aspects of the human condition that transcend specific cultural contexts. The enigmatic nature of fog extends far beyond myth and folklore, finding profound connections within the realms of philosophy, ethics, and ideology. Its ability to obscure, disorient, and transform the familiar into the mysterious resonates deeply with fundamental questions about knowledge, morality, and societal structures. In philosophy, fog serves as a potent metaphor for the limits of human perception and the inherent unknowability of certain aspects of existence. In epistemology, the theory of knowledge, the experience of being lost in a literal fog mirrors the fog of ignorance, a state where clear understanding is elusive, and the reliability of our senses or reasoning is challenged. This echoes skepticism, which questions the possibility of certain knowledge, much like one cannot claim certainties when vision is obscured. Philosophers like Immanuel Kant grappled with the distinction between the phenomenal world, reality as we perceive it, and the noumenal world, reality as it is in itself, suggesting that ultimate truths might forever remain veiled, much like a landscape hidden beyond an impenetrable mist. The very act of navigating fog becomes an existential challenge, facing uncertainty, making decisions without clear guidance, and confronting the absurdity or indifference of a world whose paths are not always illuminated. It forces an encounter with the subjective nature of our reality, prompting reflection on what we can truly know when our most reliable sense is compromised. This conceptual fog can also relate to debates on consciousness and the hard problem of how subjective experience arises, suggesting that some fundamental aspects of reality may remain inherently veiled from objective, scientific inquiry. The philosophical veil of perception metaphor, where our senses present us with an indirect representation of reality, finds a powerful experiential correlative in the disorienting physical reality of fog, prompting profound questions about the nature of truth itself. Ethically, the fog often represents moral ambiguity or complex dilemmas where discerning right from wrong is challenging. When the consequences of actions are unclear, or intentions are hidden, individuals and societies must navigate a moral fog, making decisions without the benefit of clear foresight. This is particularly relevant in ethical frameworks like consequentialism, where the morality of an act depends on its outcome. If outcomes are shrouded in mist, ethical decision-making becomes inherently difficult. Conversely, the act of purposefully creating a fog through deception, misinformation, or obfuscation, raises significant ethical questions about truth, transparency, and responsibility. The ethical imperative often shifts from clear-cut rules to the virtue of prudence and discernment, emphasizing the need for careful judgment and wisdom when operating in conditions of profound uncertainty, accepting that sometimes, the moral path is not brightly lit. Consider, for instance, the ethical implications of plausible deniability in political discourse, where a deliberate effort is made to obscure accountability, creating a moral fog around actions. This extends to the modern ethical challenges of navigating complex information environments, where distinguishing fact from manipulation often feels like traversing a dense informational mist, requiring critical discernment and an active pursuit of clarity. Ideologically, the symbolism of fog is equally compelling. For various religious ideologies, fog can represent divine mystery, the veil between the human and the divine, suggesting that ultimate truths are not meant to be fully comprehensible by mortal minds, requiring faith beyond clear sight. Revelation, conversely, is often depicted as the lifting of such a veil, or the parting of clouds. In political ideologies and power structures, fog can be a tool of control. Propaganda, misinformation, or deliberately complex bureaucratic systems can create an ideological fog that obscures inconvenient truths, manipulates public perception, or prevents citizens from fully understanding the workings of power. Totalitarian regimes, for instance, often excel at generating such a truth fog to maintain their grip, while conversely, movements seeking social justice often aim to lift the veil or cut through the fog to expose underlying inequalities or hidden systemic issues. The very concept of a secret society or esoteric knowledge relies on this deliberate creation of a veil, accessible only to the initiated, mirroring the ancient myths of hidden realms and veiled truths. The rise of fake news and alternative facts in contemporary society can be seen as modern manifestations of this deliberate ideological fog, blurring the lines of verifiable truth and creating widespread public disorientation. The ideological fog thus represents a strategic manipulation of reality, where obscurity becomes a means of power and control, contrasting sharply with democratic ideals of transparency and informed consent. These philosophical, ethical, and ideological echoes demonstrate that the profound impact of fog extends far beyond its physical manifestation or its place in ancient tales. It remains a powerful lens through which humanity continues to grapple with the limits of knowledge, the complexities of morality, and the intricate ways in which truth and power are shaped and perceived in an often obscure world. While the pervasive role of fog in myth and folklore is evident, it's important to acknowledge and address potential critiques. One might argue that attributing such profound meanings to fog is merely superstition, lacking scientific rigor. However, this article's purpose is not to assert the scientific truth of these myths, but to explore their cultural and psychological significance. Myths serve vital functions in human societies. They explain the inexplicable, reinforce communal values, process fears, and provide narratives for understanding our place in the world. Their cultural truth and enduring impact are distinct from scientific validation, highlighting a different, equally valid, way of understanding human experience and imagination. particularly in times before empirical science offered alternative explanations. This approach recognizes the dual nature of reality, the empirically verifiable and the experientially meaningful, both contributing to the human understanding of the world. Another common critique might be that the claim of universality is overstated, given that specific examples are limited and don't encompass every culture. Yet, universal in this context implies widespread and recurring themes, not that every single culture possesses identical myths or places equal emphasis on fog. The provided examples are illustrative of common motifs found across diverse global mythologies, demonstrating a human tendency to interpret fog symbolically. The universality stems from the common human experience of fog's disorienting and obscuring nature, which naturally leads to similar symbolic interpretations, even if the specific deities or narratives differ. Scholarly tools like motif indices, which systematically catalog recurring narrative elements across cultures, further underscore this widespread pattern, indicating these are not isolated occurrences but shared human responses. This universality of experience argument posits that certain fundamental human encounters with nature elicit consistent psychological and symbolic responses, leading to convergent mythologies. Some critics might also contend that the article conflates fog with mist, cloud, or smoke. While acknowledging the precise meteorological distinctions, in mythological and symbolic contexts, these atmospheric phenomena often share similar core symbolic functions due to their shared characteristic of obscuring vision and creating ambiguity. Myths frequently blur these lines, focusing on the effect of visual obfuscation rather than the scientific composition. The article prioritizes this shared symbolic impact, while striving to specify when a particular myth refers distinctly to smoke or cloud rather than ground-level fog, recognizing the fluidity of ancient categorization. The symbolic essence here lies in the shared phenomenon of visual impedance and the consequent psychological impact, rather than strict scientific classification. Finally, a critic might ask for hard data, statistics, or quantifiable evidence to support these claims. The study of myths and folklore, however, is primarily a qualitative discipline, focusing on narrative patterns, cultural meaning, and symbolic resonance, rather than statistical measurement. The evidence lies in the pervasive documentation of these specific motifs in ancient texts, oral traditions, and ethnographic records across diverse cultures. The consistency and recurrence of these themes, identified through methods like cross-cultural comparative analysis and folkloric motif indexing, provide robust academic backing for the prevalence of these beliefs, even without numerical statistics. The data here are the stories themselves and their shared characteristics across societies, offering profound insights into human culture and cognition. This qualitative richness provides a deep, contextual understanding that quantitative analysis alone cannot capture, revealing the intricate tapestry of human belief and meaning-making. The pervasive presence of fog in global myths and folklore underscores its profound impact on the human psyche. It is a powerful symbol of mystery, magic, transformation, concealment, and the often unseen forces that shape our world, reminding us that sometimes, the most profound truths are found within the deepest mists. It is a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with the unrevealed, the hidden, and the boundaries between our tangible reality and the realms of imagination and spirit. Fog remains a potent reminder that even in the clearest day, there are always unseen layers to reality, forever inviting us to peer into its enigmatic depths. Its legacy in our collective consciousness demonstrates that even as scientific understanding advances, the ancient whispers of the mist continue to resonate, connecting us to the primal fears and wonders of our ancestors and the timeless allure of the unknown.